What if everything you think you know about this team is only half the story? Because behind every great football nation, there are moments of glory, hidden struggles, and decisions that changed history forever. And today, we are going to explore a question that millions of football fans around the world have wondered. What is the real story behind Italy's national football team? And why did they produce the greatest defenders the world has ever seen? Italy, Gli Azzurri, the Blue, 4 FIFA World Cup titles, 2 European championships, dozens of iconic players, and a footballing philosophy so disciplined, so ruthless, so tactically brilliant that it reshaped how the entire world thinks about defending. But this is not just a story about trophies. This is a story about identity, about a nation that turned defense into art, about men who stood like walls when the world tried to break through, and about a football culture so deeply embedded in Italian society that even today, decades after its golden era, the world still studies it, still debates it, still respects it. Italy's football story begins in the early 20th century, but it was the 1930s that first announced them to the world. Under manager Vittorio Pozzo, the only man in history to win 2 FIFA World Cups as head coach, Italy claimed back-to-back World Cup titles in 1934 and 1938. This was a nation that had discovered something most teams hadn't yet understood: that organization, structure, and defensive solidity were not weaknesses, they were weapons. The decades that followed shaped Italy's footballing DNA. The domestic league, Serie A, became the world's most tactically sophisticated competition through the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, and it was in that environment that Italy's most defining philosophy was born: catenaccio, translated literally as door bolt, a tactical system built around an extra defender, a sweeper, the libero, who stood behind the defensive line, reading the game, cleaning up every threat before it became danger. Critics called it negative football, but results called it genius. No conversation about Italian football is complete without naming the men who made defending legendary: Giacinto Facchetti, a left-back so complete, so elegant, and so ahead of his time that he essentially invented the modern attacking fullback role. While still being one of the most reliable defenders of his generation, his influence at Inter Milan and the national team was immeasurable. Then came Gaetano Scirea, arguably the most graceful sweeper to ever play the game, calm under pressure, intelligent beyond description. He was the heartbeat of Juventus's dominance and the backbone of Italy's 1982 World Cup triumph in Spain. And speaking of 1982, perhaps the greatest Italian defensive performance in history, manager Enzo Bearzot built a squad forged in adversity. Criticized at home, doubted abroad, Italy entered the tournament in near silence. Then Paolo Rossi woke up. But behind every Rossi goal was a defense that simply refused to yield. Italy conceded only 2 goals in the knockout rounds and lifted the World Cup in Madrid. But the name that towers above all others in the modern era is Paolo Maldini. Born into football royalty, his father Cesare also captained Italy. Paolo Maldini spent 25 years at AC Milan and became the defining image of what a defender could be. Composure, intelligence, leadership, timing. He was everything. Twice a World Cup finalist, consistently regarded as the greatest defender in football history. A man so respected that when he retired in 2009, the game itself seemed quieter. Alongside him in that golden era stood Alessandro Costacurta, Fabio Cannavaro, who lifted the World Cup as captain in 2006, and won the Ballon d'Or that same year, and Franco Baresi, whose name remains synonymous with the art of defending at the highest level. Today, Italy stands at a fascinating crossroads. The 2021 UEFA European Championship was a reminder of what the Azzurri can still produce. Under Roberto Mancini, Italy went 37 matches unbeaten, played vibrant, progressive football, and ended England's dream at Wembley. To claim European glory, it was a renaissance moment, but the shadows are long. Italy failed to qualify for the 2018 and 2022 FIFA World Cups, 2 consecutive absences that shook the nation to its core. The talent pipeline, once an automatic producer of elite defenders, has become less reliable. The tactical revolution has forced Italy to adapt. Under current coach Luciano Spalletti, a rebuilding process is underway, with young talents being integrated to carry the weight of an extraordinary legacy. What made Italian defenders different was never just physical, it was mental architecture. Italian football culture demands that you understand the game before you play it. Defenders in Serie A were trained not just to stop opponents, but to predict them, to read body language, to understand space. This is why Italian defenders aged so well, because their game was built on intelligence, not pace. The libero system, the zonal marking debates, the high defensive line, these were not accidents. They were the products of coaches who treated tactics as philosophy. And that philosophy produced the most consistently elite defensive talent the world has ever seen. Italy's defensive legacy matters because it changed football globally. Coaches from Barcelona to Buenos Aires studied Italian defending. Premier League clubs hired Italian coaches specifically to install defensive discipline. And to this day, when analysts describe the complete defender, the benchmark almost always traces back to Maldini, Baresi, or Cannavaro. This is a nation that proved, beyond any reasonable argument, that defending is not the absence of attacking. It is a separate art form, and Italy mastered it. 4 World Cups, 2 European Championships, generations of defenders who redefine the position forever. Italy's story is not just about football, it is about a nation that looked at the game differently, and in doing so, made the game better for everyone. The golden era may be behind them. The absences from World Cups still sting, but history shows us that Italian football has always found a way to reset, rebuild, and return. So the real question is, can the Azzurri rise again? Produce the next Maldini, the next Baresi, and remind the world exactly why Italy remains one of the greatest football nations ever to lace up their boots? Only time, and 90 minutes, will tell.